Voting is a civic duty. Let's register on the electoral list. This is a message from Equinoxe Television.
Good evening, dear viewers. Thank you so much for joining me on this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe Television. Our major stories tonight: another femicide case rocks Cameroon as a 32-year-old woman and mother of 5 children dies after being assaulted by her own husband. Kenfak Mavina's family seeks justice, citing a history of abuse. This incident occurred in Bonaberi in the Douala 4 subdivision. Away from that, the spread of hate speech and disinformation in Cameroon's media landscape is a pressing concern for regulatory bodies, particularly the National Communication Council. Amidst the country's complex socio-political climate, the NCC is proactively engaging media professionals and strategies to combat this ill. We tell you more about this and many more in this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast. Stay with us for details and more. If you're just joining us, then know you're watching the 6 p.m. primetime newscast. For presentation, I am Immaculate Fogwe. Femicide cases continue to escalate in Cameroon. The recent incident occurred in Bonaberi in the Douala 4 subdivision, where a 32-year-old woman and a mother of 5 children died after injuries inflicted by her own husband. Kenfak Mavina's family is seeking justice while noting that this wasn't the first time that she was being assaulted. Ese Lucilengu has more on this story.
Kenfak Mavina will never enter this house again. At 32, the young lady succumbed to injuries inflicted by her partner last Saturday, April 26, 2025, while returning from a wedding. The incident took place in Bonaberi in the Douala 4 subdivision.
Ce n'est pas la première fois qu'il tape sa femme pour tuer. C'est plus de 10 fois qu'il tape la fille.
At her family residence located at the Matango entrance, precisely in the Grahanga neighborhood, the atmosphere is tense and the pain is unbearable.
L'enfant est mort comme ça, il a étouffé. Il a étouffé jusqu'à l'enfant était comme une femme qui était grosse.
According to the victim's aunt, her partner was known for his violent behavior. On several occasions, he brutally assaulted Mavina, leaving her with injuries. Yet, Mavina did not listen to her family's warnings to leave the marriage and return to her family residence.
Il vient toujours la flatter pour aller.
Several complaints have been filed against Dr Bili, with the family hoping that justice will take its course and the alleged murderer will be held accountable.
Les convocations, même à Boudjongo, même partout, que si un jour un corps tombe, on va arrêter le gars-ci.
The couple had lived for several years in the Bipele neighborhood, Block 4, and were parents to 4 children. Her neighbors remember her as a woman full of life and hospitality.
Je dis, la dame était une femme exemplaire, une femme vraiment en bonne relation avec ses voisins.
While investigations are ongoing, the perpetrator is in the hands of security forces.
Now in other news, less than 2 weeks after custom officials at the Douala International Airport seized 70 kilograms of illicit substance hidden in an air compressor on a Rwandan flight from South Africa, another customs operation has resulted in the confiscation of 30 kilograms of cocaine valued at $2.3 million on an Ethiopian Airlines flight. The suspect is currently in detention. Malaglori tells us more.
The suspect was apprehended by the Customs Service of the Douala International Airport with luggages that contain a huge quantity of illicit substance.
30 kilograms of cocaine hidden in checked luggage of Ethiopian Airlines flight ET686 bound for New Delhi, India. The illicit substance was clearly concealed in a suitcase that appeared to contain only spices, demonstrating a sophisticated attempt to evade detection. The estimated street value of the seized cocaine is $2.3 million US.
While the suspected drug trafficker is being interrogated, early investigations have permitted the custom officers to come out with positive results.
Early intelligence suggests the involvement of a well-structured criminal network operating potentially on a transnational scale. This second seizure in less than 10 days reinforces the hypothesis of an organized trafficking ring exploring African air corridors.
In their mission to fight transnational drug trafficking, the Customs Service of the Douala International Airport is working in close collaboration with national and international intelligence services, foreign custom administrations, border enforcement agencies, air travel partners, and the Ministry of Justice. This with the objective of
to disrupt, dismantle, and ultimately eliminate these illegal operations through strong and responsive collaboration. Under the leadership of the Director General, the Customs Service reaffirms its unwavering commitment to protect national borders from criminal activities, to ensure smooth flow of legitimate trade and travel, and safeguard national security and public health.
Further operations are on the way to completely dismantle the structure of the suspected network.
Malaglari reporting there. Residents and traders using the Nous stretch of road in the southwest region are urging the government to rehabilitate the deteriorating road. The poor condition is affecting plantain farmers who are forced to sell their farm produce at very low prices, resulting to enormous losses. Smart Gabriel takes us to this part of Cameroon.
Mr. NGWANE Kome of Ndum village on the Tombel subdivision struggles to protect its maize by drying them under the sun. The maize, which was destined for the main market out of Ndum village, couldn't be moved because of bad roads.
We produce corn.
We produce maize, but there is no way for us to take them to the market. Sometimes, even those who pay to transport the maize from the farm to our houses are lacking. So, let the government see into our cry, because we have enough food here, but no road.
Chop the year fine, but now road is the kiwi.
Plantains are another food crop that is suffering the same fate as a result of the inaccessible nature of the road in Ndum village. Because of the poor state of the road, buying prices drops drastically, making the laborer to work in vain. This is plantains that we've sold at a lesser price because of the poor road. A bunch that could be sold at 5,000 francs in Douala, we are forced to sell at 1,000 francs CFA. Buyers of these plantains also have a Herculean tax transporting the food to the main market, which is in Douala, as getting a vehicle sometimes is a do or die matter. I was supposed to carry these plantains to Douala to sell them, but no vehicle. The only one coming is stuck on the road because we have no road. We've bought plantains, but no road to transport them. Natives of Ndum village, as well as the buyers, are now hoping that with the coming of presidential elections, their elites won't only come to sing praises to the authorities, but also will act wisely.
Now to one of our major story of the day. The prevalence of hate speech and disinformation in the media has become a major battlefront for media regulatory authorities in Cameroon, particularly the National Communication Council. Considering the current socio-political context of the country and the repetitive flow of these ills, mainly on debate and talk shows in the media, the NCC is engaging media professionals on ways and a need to combat it. Femi Armstrong Sender is a man on that story.
The 5th edition of the National Communication Council's Coffee Talks comes within a context marked by political agitations ahead of the 2025 presidential election and the prevalence of hate speech and divisive tendencies on the media in Cameroon. While in the city of Douala, The National Communication Council notes that hate speech is spread by invitees on talk shows and media debate in the country.
And when you are preparing your interactive program or your debate programs, you know who can come in to provide additional information to what you know about the subject. And sometimes when you get experts, it's because you want the experts to express their opinions and give credibility to the allegations or the pre-knowledge you have about the subject. And that's why you don't ask people to give their opinions. If you ask opinions, any individual or panelist that you have will give you an opinion, and that opinion will depend on what he or she is thinking, not the facts that are supposed to be guided by principles or theory.
A call from the president that falls within the development media theory and summons the social responsibility of the journalist.
A journalist is somebody who is supposed to report facts, balance the facts before sending it out to the public, not because he or she is biased, but because that journalist has a social responsibility and a moral obligation.
But how does a journalist reconcile his social responsibility with the need to tell the truth to the public?
You have to communicate the truth, and sometimes the truth is complex for you to know within a short period of time, all the facts. But a series of facts, as you report them, will lead to that truth. And yes, it is important to use their conscience, which philosophers say is the first court of justice within us, because we are humans and we know the consequences living in society of what we say. So saying it to have a terrible negative outcome will be a question of your conscience and even to an extent media ethics.
The resource person, Professor Kingsley Ganke, also outlines the task of professional gatekeeping.
It's the role of the media to build. And I've said that media are tools. They are like guns. In the hands of a good person, they will be used to protect the society. In the hands of a bad person, they will be used to destroy the society, to shred it. So what do we want to use our media for?
These issues featured in discussions on the fight against hate speech in the media, disinformation in the media, and the professional moderation of talk shows on day one of the National Communication Council's coffee talks with journalists in the city of Douala.
In the same vein, the National Commission for the Promotion of Bilingualism and Multiculturalism engaged with education stakeholders in Douala, exploring ways on how to better foster bilingualism in school. The Commission emphasized on the importance of teachers prioritizing bilingualism to better equip students. They also urged the population to equally heed away from hate speech, saying it's something that can destroy the population. We have greater details with Siri Chakutu.
For more than a decade, the world as a whole has been witnessing an unprecedented surge of hate speech in the public space, amplified by the extraordinary development of the internet and social media, significantly undermining democratic values, social peace, and therefore the stability of states. This situation gives rise to complex challenges for the society at a time when the digital boom is impacting the dissemination of information through the media, a situation which caught the attention of the National Commission for the Promotion of Bilingualism and Multiculturalism.
Our mission here in Douala is a mission of follow-up and evaluation of the implementation of the law on official languages.
Concerned about the current upsurge in the spread of hate speech in the country, the National Commission for the Promotion of Bilingualism and Multiculturalism made a tour to some schools here in Douala alongside with stakeholders of the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education to fight against this ill at the local level.
The specific challenges is what you have the children who don't like to speak in English. You have the children who don't like to speak in English. You make effort to bring them to take that opportunity to learn the two languages.
I try to make sure that any occasion that takes place in school, you have at least a paragraph or two that the principal must give it in English. I have an English club that will try to enforce that the children, every Monday when we have assembly, they come up with news. And that news has to be read in English and French.
For the students, speaking both languages is an advantage.
French, English is very good. When we have bilingualism, the teachers give us the opportunity to to speak well French and English. So we have something like we do sketch, we do we sing, we have text to stay. When we are doing classes, if you have difficulty in English, they help us how to maintain, to know how we can do.
The Commission's 2025 priority is tailored to ensure that the structure continues to promote bilingualism and multiculturalism while maintaining peace, consolidating the country's national unity, strengthening its people's willingness and daily experience of peace coexistence.
And in other news, the statue of Dr Emmanuel Bili was unveiled in Buea, the southwest region, to honor his significant contributions as a key figure during the pre- and post-independence periods. Rex Afon, our southwest correspondent, details Dr. Endele's impact on Cameroon politics in the following report.
Dr. Emmanuel Bili, one of the earliest medically trained indigenes in British Southern Cameroon, rose into becoming a key figure in politics within the region at that time. In 1954, when British Southern Cameroon obtained the status of a quasi-autonomous territory, he became the Prime Minister till 1959, when he lost the elections to arch-rival John Ngu Foncha. In 1961, during the plebiscite, Dr. Endele campaigned against reunification with La République, but lost to Foncha once more. He was also amongst the brains whose absence during the 1961 Fumban Conference sparked a lot of controversies. He pursued his political career post-reunification, but only served in the legislative. He died on the 29th of June 1988 in Buea. Erecting a statue of him in Buea, where he was born in 1916, is considered a great honor by his family.
We are extremely grateful for this recognition of Dr. Emmanuel Bili. We all know he was a political icon in this country, and his ideas are still very useful to us today, and we are very happy for this recognition.
We cannot undermine or underestimate the role that Dr. Emmanuel Bili played in the politics of the Southern Cameroons and the United Cameroon, and up to the point where until he died. So many people took over from him, and we are blessed to have had such a person, proud to be part of that legacy. And when we see this projected now permanently and on a very conspicuous side, I think that we are very, very so happy, so proud to be from this part of the country and to identify ourselves with the works of such a great person.
The erection of the statue of those who played a significant role in Cameroon's history is considered by historians to be a drive which aims at preserving the facts about history for posterity.
Straight away to religion, the College of Cardinals announced this Monday, April 28, that the conclave to elect Pope Francis' successor will begin on May 7th as the Church enters the final preparatory phase for choosing the 267th Pope. The papal conclave is expected to bring formal deliberations next week. Innocent Azeh sheds light on the activities of the College of Cardinals in Vatican during the Novem Diales and how they will possibly elect a new Pope. His report.
The funeral of Pope Francis on Saturday marked the first day of the Novem Diales, or 9 days of mourning, before 135 of the over 250 cardinals below the age of 80 can begin the papal conclave to elect the next pope. Masses will be organized during these days of mourning. On Sunday, May 4, being the 9th and final day of the Novem Diales, Cardinal Dominique Mambetti, proto-deacon of the College of Cardinals, will preside the Mass with the Papal Chapel Group. May 5 is considered the earliest date for the papal conclave to begin, when the cardinals must have met in their 5th general meeting since the Pope's death and decided on the exact date for the conclave. The conclave to elect a new pope typically begins between 15 to 20 days after the Pope's passing. They will gather in the Sistine Chapel to begin deliberations after the words "extra omnes," everyone out, are declared, referring to all except voting cardinals and a handful of officials and doctors. The doors are locked. The cardinals swear an oath of absolute secrecy and are permitted no contacts with the outside world for the duration of the election process. Their phones are removed and no newspapers, television, letters or messages are allowed. The chapel is also swept from listening devices before and during the conclave. The conclave begins with a celebration of Mass, after which deliberations and voting begin. Votes are taken each day, morning and afternoon, until a candidate wins a 2/3 majority. There is a day's break for prayer and reflection after every 7 ballots. After each round of voting, the ballot cards are burnt. Chemicals are added to make the smoke black or white. Black smoke emerging from the 60-feet chimney indicates an inconclusive ballot. White smoke announces to the world that a new pope has been elected. The successful candidate is asked if he accepts the election, and if so, which name he chooses to take as pontiff. The cardinals pledge obedience to the new pope. The dean of the cardinals steps on to the main balcony of St. Peter's Basilica, in front of which thousands of Catholic devotees and tourists will be gathered. The dean will declare, "Habemus Papam, we have a pope." He will continue papal duties from where Pope Francis ended.
That element done by Innocent Aze ends this first part of the news. Talking Point is up next. Tonight on Talking Point, we'll be looking at the dangers of hate speech, and to answer my questions on this, we'll be having as guest NGWANE George ESAMBE. He is a member of the National Commission for the Promotion of Bilingualism and Multiculturalism. Good evening, NGWANE George. It's a pleasure having you on Talking Point tonight.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's a couple of years I got invited to this program, and I'm extremely elated that I am one of your guests for the month of April. Thank you for inviting me once my mic.
There is this saying that Cameroon is bilingual, but Cameroonians are not bilingual. How true is this assertion?
But we've tried to debunk that kind of allegation, because over the years, not only when the commission was created, but before then, you remember that Article 1, Paragraph 3 of the Constitution actually specifies that the 2 official languages, English and French, are of equal value. Now, what our commission has come to do since the creation in 2017, followed by the law that was promulgated in 2019, what we've tried to do now is to make sure that various sectors of our own society be able to be equipped with this law, and therefore it has made Cameroonians more bilingual than Cameroon itself.
Now, in the course of a meeting that was attended by members of Multiculturalism today in Douala, you discussed on the surge of hate speech in Cameroon. What are the primary drivers behind the recent surge in hate speech in Cameroon, particularly in the context where we are preparing for elections come October?
Yes, generally I would say hate speech emanates from a dysfunction in society. That dysfunction could be economic, it could be political, it could be social, it could be cultural. Now, generally for Cameroonians, they hinge their hate speech on economic sector, where they don't find that the benefits of the economy are going round to everyone. We also have known that where 2 cultures exist, and here specifically we can refer to English and French, there is always a collision in terms of how each culture perceives themselves. So over the years, we've tried to investigate, and we found that this hate speech actually emanates from one not knowing the other. So what we try to do for us to foster social cohesion is to make sure that there is interaction between the groups, and that there is also the need to address the causes of hate speech. And that goes with economic, political, and social. Now you mentioned about this year, which is going to be a political election year. Now there's a possibility that there will be an upsurge. There will be a rise in hate speech, especially in the social media, basically because there are people who are not really happy with how the election calendar, electoral code, and so on have been put in place. But we only pray and we only hope that the hate speech does not rise up to violence, because I think in every country there's a tendency for people to agitate and gesticulate when it comes to election.
Now, there is this particular issue preoccupying Cameroonians today. Perpetrators of hate speech often go unpunished, contributing to its rise. What's your take on this, and what measures have been taken by the Commission to curb the spread of hate speech at the moment?
At our level, first of all, you know that it is a consultative body. So what we do is actually transmit our reports to the President of the Republic. But I think there is a law, I think Section 163 of the Penal Code, that says that those who are involved with hate speech are supposed to be criminalized, are supposed to be punished, they're supposed to be prosecuted. Now, that is not within the remit of the National Commission. It is the judiciary that takes that responsibility. But what we do as members of the Commission is to continue sensitizing. But when it comes to what you call law enforcement, it is in the hands of the judiciary.
Despite the fact that the judiciary has the sole responsibility of holding accountable the perpetrators, that definitely means the National Commission for the Promotion of Bilingualism and Multiculturalism will not be able to effectively carry out its job well because they depend on the order for the job to be well done. Do you see this as a major setback for this commission?
Yeah, I think that it's always good to have sensitization go along with sanctioning. But I think, again, like I said, there is a law that exists, and I can only call on the responsible quarter to take that responsibility.
Now, what challenges is your commission facing in combating hate speech, and how do you plan to overcome them?
I think with hate speech, I'm sure that the commission can only do what it can, which is that of letting people understand that hate speech does not foster national integration, it does not foster national unity, it does not foster social cohesion. Hate speech, on the other hand, instead negates all the development factors that would have been put in place, and it also doesn't give us the possibility of giving ourselves a sense of national identity. What can the Commission do about it? How can we actually mitigate these problems of hate speech? I can tell you that there we are it's a little bit of a conflict, and I would really turn the ball back again to the quarters.
How do local leaders and influencers impact public discourse, and what role can they play in mitigating hate speech in relation to what you are already doing at the moment?
Well, I think as much as possible, what they are doing on especially social media is a good job, but they should go further by trying to do what they call now the name and shame strategy. In other words, if they are able to find those who are involved in hate speech, they should be able to have them exposed and then actually give them to the the officers that are responsible with prosecution. But for now, no one would actually have the powers to be able to prosecute people except, like I said, the judiciary. And I think this is a call, again, a clarion call for the judiciary to take that responsibility.
On the 20th of May, Cameroonians will be celebrating National Day. This celebration comes at a time when Cameroon is marred by armed conflict in the northwest and southwest regions, which is jeopardizing the peace of the nation. Apart from this, we have heard some other people of some regions qualifying a group of persons as Lebamenda, Kamnogo, and many others of such provocative appellations. Do you think this day is worth celebrating?
Right, you need to first of all look at the background of 20th May. 20th May was born out of the desire to have a unity state, and which emanated from the abrogation of a federal state that was put in place in 1961 and then 1972 that was dismantled. Now, irrespective of those social tags, irrespective of those social labels, there's a need to see beyond the hate speech that has been occurring, and that did not come because there was 20th May. It has come because there is a lot of social friction, and it is important that while we celebrate a thing like 20th May, we also address those issues that are making 20th May not to look palatable to many people. I'm looking forward to discussions, I'm looking forward to seminars, to workshops, and so on, so that we don't just get into the habit of doing march pasts when we can actually find a forum where people can discuss the issues that confront them daily.
In the reports done by Sidu Chakutia, we noticed that you were in some schools today. What's the purpose of the school tour, and how is it related to the fight against hate speech?
Well, we are moving out to, first of all, on the level of bilingualism. I must mention that our flagship program is bilingualism. Hate speech is a corollary of that bilingualism program. We're moving around, first of all, to institute the idea of our students in secondary schools, our pupils in primary and nursery school, to see the need of using two languages as a function to their social progress. We think that they say in English, catch them young. It is when we see young people who have now the possibility of language learning and language acquisition that we're able to let them understand that this is a time for them to learn these two languages. In terms of hate speech, you will agree with me, my dear, that you have found cases where there has been assault in schools. There have been fighting in schools, and these have actually come sometimes from this hate speech, from hate action. So I think that if we try to move to these schools like we're doing in Yaoundé presently, are doing in Douala, and we're doing in Boya, it may be able to mitigate some of the things that give rise to hate.
Any last word for our viewers?
Yes, I'd like to say that our program, the National Commission for the Promotion of Bilingualism and Multiculturalism, has been 8 years old, and anyone who is objective enough to see exactly how far we have gone, we're able to say so far, so good. But of course, it is not like we are patting ourselves on the back. There is still a lot of work to be done. And this can only be done if we also transform our sensitization.
Thank you so much, Kwani George ESAMBE, for accepting my invitation tonight.
It's been my pleasure talking to you, Immaculate, and hopefully we'll find another time to talk again.
Kwani George ESAMBE, member of the National Commission for the Promotion of Bilingualism and Multiculturalism. That's all put a cap to today's edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe Television. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for always choosing Equinoxe Television. Stay in the company of more interesting programs. Coming up next in some few minutes is a program Equinoxe with Serge Alain Otto and his guest. From us to you over there, may God bless Cameroon. Bye-bye for now.